Hello and welcome. Today we'll be talking about the Malkoff Devices P60 style M61N drop-in LED upgrade conversion. This is a solid brass heatsink construction LED conversion and has a neutral white 4000K 95 CRI luminous SST20 emitter. I have the model that's the M61NL, which outputs a medium brightness level. There are two other levels involved, but this one outputs about 200 lumens at approximately 6 volts, and it does about 300 milliamps at about 6 volts. Approximate distance at 6 volts is going to be 200 plus feet, and the approximate runtime on two CR123 batteries is going to be about 5 hours plus a taper. Here we have on the table the MDM4 adapter for the Surefire M962 Light, which is on the top here. This helps convert the kit over to use with the M61NL adapter. This is the LED upgrade converter. And then we have the M951 Surefire, which doesn't require the converter. This can simply drop in there. We have a dummy load battery unit in case we can try to use our lithium-ion battery in the 3-cell light. We don't need that for the 2-cell light here. So luckily this is only for the 962 Surefire. We have some spacers for the M951. Potentially we might need that to push the spring back a little further and reseat the head unit. I don't think we'll be using this, but it's always good to have that on hand. And then next to it we have some O-ring protectors for the lithium-ion batteries. This prevents a lot of shock getting to the actual battery unit, and breaking lithium-ion battery is not a lot of fun. And then finally we have the M962 unit. Now this is the medium output version. There's two other versions here we have on the phone, if you can see this. If not, I'll just read it off. It's the module is the M962NL, and that runs at approximately 200 lumens at 6 volts. And also at 6 volts, it has a current draw of about 300 milliamps, and the approximate distance at 6 volts is going to be 200 plus feet. And the approximate runtime on two CR1238 batteries is going to be about 5 hours plus a taper. Now there's a 400 lumen output option and there's a 80 lumen output option, each with varying degrees of current draw and distance and obviously runtime. So I wanted something that's a little bit more kind of a balance between indoor and out. So this is the best runtime and bang for the buck in my opinion for my needs, and that's why I got it. So we're gonna go ahead and compare the incandescent bulbs first, and then we're going to drop in our M61NL in both lights, and we're also going to show how to do the MDM4 installation on the M962 Surefire weapon light. Okay, we're back shooting an Aperture 7.1, 24 frames per second, ISO is 2500 on a Panasonic GH2 with a white balance of 5000K. With a 14 to 42 millimeter lens. Here we have a Oppo Lightmaster Pro, and that's what's going to be measuring our lux here and our color temperature. Hopefully it does render it pretty well. It seems like we're getting a good reading right now, and this is about roughly 2 feet off the table. We can see the incandescent bulb is a temperature rating of around 36K, 35K, which is considerably wider than I think, but the CRI is about 97.7, and the lux output is approximately kind of shifting between 7K and 8K, we'll call it. So it's a little bit bouncy a little bit, but that's probably because of my hand here. So that is the M962 incandescent bulb with 3 batteries inside of it at 9 volts. And the lux kind of shot up a little bit too here, so we're fluctuating about 10,000 lux. So that is the measurement for the M962, and here's what the beam pattern looks like on the side here. This is again approximately about 2 feet off the table. Not the most ideal testing for the incandescent bulb. We'll do more further later on in the video, but this gives you an idea of how it renders color and what it looks like on the camera here. And I'm going to go ahead and grab the M951 and test out that incandescent bulb. Okay, we have the M951, and we're running off of 2 CR123 batteries as well. And we can see it's approximately a little bit more brighter than the M962. That's probably because maybe my batteries might be a little bit drained a little bit, so that could be a potential issue. But we're getting about 11,000 lux, 10,000 lux or so, anywhere between there, about the same height and about the same temperature rating for the incandescent bulb, about 35K or so, and approximately 98.7 on the CRI rating. And as we can see, the beam pattern is pretty much the same, or very similar to the M962 beam pattern. And again, this is only about 2 feet off, 2.5 feet off the table, so it's not the practical application of this weapon light. Just gives you an idea, again, of the measurements that we have here and the rendering quality. Here we can see the M61NL module here. We have some writing on the brass here on the outside to mark it. This is etched into the light itself on the side here on the brass. And then we have the smooth peel orange reflector here. And we can see the luminous SST20 emitter inside. This is the high CRI version again, 95 high CRI, and also 4000K in terms of temperature rating. So we can see the fine craftsmanship on the reflector in there. It produces a nice beam with no artifacts from what I've seen. And it's got a nice throw to it as well. And once again, this is the medium output model at about 200 lumens at 6 volts. And the reason why I got the medium model is because I wanted something that can be kind of balanced indoors and a little bit outdoors, so for my uses. Here's the back where we can see the spring here, and this is a pretty strong material, so it's not going to break apart. And I did pull out a little bit just to make sure we have some contact being made in the M951 unit. Here we can see the components on the table with the MDM4 adapter. We have a O-ring, a spring, a lens with a plastic protector that we had to peel off on both sides. It's kind of confusing at first for this part, so remember, if you get a blue looking disc, just peel off the plastic here. And then we have the holder for the M61NL unit. And then we have the head adapter here as well that we'll be installing everything into. So first what we're going to do is grab our O-ring and throw that in there. Make sure that's in there nice and neatly. It kind of seats right into that little spot there. You can kind of see it. And let's get a light here so you guys can see what we're looking at. So it's right in there in that center spot. And then we're going to take our lens and gently drop it in there. And it fits nicely in there, so we'll get another view of that. So it's right up against the O-ring. And then we're going to take our unit, drop it in here. And then we're going to take the sleeve that goes around, drop it inside. And the spring, I believe, goes on the other side of here. And I do apologize for the dog in the background there. Our neighbor's dog seems to be very excited about this installation. And that is pretty much it. And as we can see, the original head unit, we have our bulb, and this is the M962 head here in the front. So a little bit different. And we're going to go ahead and try to screw this on here. And a little bit tricky with the spring, but we got it here. Screw that down nice and tight, and we should have a new head unit on the M962. Let's go ahead and try it out. So we are looking at pretty good right now. So it is working very well. And that is how you install the head unit for the M962 Surefire weapon light. And it makes it considerably smaller than the original headlamp, so definitely a size and weight reduction. Here we can see a close-up view of the head and the fine work that Gene Malkoff does. We have the Malkoff Devices MDM4 logo on there and made in the USA, which is amazing. We can see the crenulations in the front are pretty aggressive. They're not sharp, but it's nice to have that kind of aggressive look in the front. And we can also see, if we aim it just right, the emitter inside there and the lens. So nestles right inside and looks very nice, very sleek. And we have these little smooth outs here in between the rising points. So I thought I'd show you the close-up look of what you're getting when you get the MDM4 adapter series. Now, any M61N or M61T type of drop-ins will fit inside of this adapter, so that's kind of nice. So I went with the neutral white version because it can work in the 951 and also this device here as well. And this is actually running on 3 CR123 batteries right now. So I thought this was initially rated at 6 volts, this light, but it's actually running off of 9 volts, which is pretty amazing consider the big wide range of voltage operations. I think it runs from anywhere from 3.4 volts to 9 volts on this type of emitter. Now I'm going to get some beam shots with the CR123 battery and measure the lux output and the temperature rating. Okay, we're back with a aperture of 7.1, 24 frames per second, ISO is 2500 with a white balance of 5000K and a Panasonic GH2 with a 14 to 42 millimeter lens. Here we have the light on in its main mode with the new LED drop-in, the M61NL. And we're approximately the same amount of height off the table as we were initially, about 2 feet off the table or so. And we're getting a reading of about 12,000 lux or 11,000 lux, a temperature rating of about 38 to 41K, which is within the ballpark. And we have a CRI of about 97.5 to 98. So we're looking pretty good as far as comparisons to the old incandescent bulb. We're definitely about the same brightness or just a little bit more. And we do have a slightly cooler temperature while maintaining the same CRI. The benefit we're getting from this is the increased run times of about 5 hours as opposed to about an hour or less with this type of module. So definitely a worthwhile upgrade. And if we look on the table here, we can tell the beam is approximately the same kind of throw. It's a little bit more softer on the throw, but it spills out very nice. The hot spot here fades out into the spill, and we get a nice color rendering here. No visible artifacts or anything of that sort, and it looks very pretty. Definitely a better upgrade for sure. So that's what it looks like with 3 cells on the M962 Surefire. Now what we're going to do is we're going to install it into the M951, the same unit, and run it off of 2 CR123 batteries. Here on the table we have the Surefire M951 taken apart with the head assembly here. It's incandescent bulb, the P60, and we can see that this is a smaller unit than the other one we have in our 962. Let's go ahead and put that on the side, and we have the LED module for the drop-in here. Now this is going to be a little bit different install. We have some spacer rings which we could put down in here in the head unit, which has a small spring that kind of moves up and down here to alleviate some shock. And also inside the collar unit here, we do have a black plastic piece which you can take out so that the spring can fit through and then contact the batteries in there. We're probably not going to do that because this probably works pretty well without it right now. I'm going to drop that in there like this, and as you can see, if I push down, it has a bit of a spring to it. So I'm going to go ahead and take this and push this inside the head unit here, screw down nice and neatly, and we're going to go ahead and give it a shot in a moment here so we can see the light come on. Now sometimes you might need to use these spacers to get the unit in the right placement, but I don't think we'll need it for this one here, and it looks like we don't need it right now, and the neighbor's dog agrees with us. It's got a nice floody beam, just like the M962, pretty decent, and it's working very well. And we'll try the pressure switch here just to make sure. Okay, everything's working pretty good with the pressure switch. And that's how you install the head unit on the M951. Just be aware you might need to use spacers and pull the springs a little bit to contact the battery, the tip of the battery there. Okay, we're back shooting an Aperture 7.1, 24 frames per second. ISO is going to be about 2500 with a white balance of 5000K on a Panasonic GH2 14 to 42 millimeter lens. Here we have the M951 on constant on mode here, and I'm going to raise it above about 2 feet above the meter. And this is with 2 CR123 batteries, And we have a lux output about 9,700-ish to about 10,000. So we'll call it about 9.5 to about 10K on the lux here. And it looks like it's stabilizing to 94 or so. All right. The temperature rating is about 41K, 42K. And the CRI is about 98 or 97. So we're roughly getting the same amount readings here. And we just jumped up to about 1100 lux. So about the same output with the 2 CR123 batteries as opposed to the 3 CR123 batteries or so. So not bad. It sometimes takes this Lightmaster Pro, the Opal Lightmaster Pro, a while to adjust to the light. And we're getting up to about 1200 lux, which is, or 11,000 lux or so. So about the same ballpark as the M962, but with the M951. And as we can see here, the beam profile is pretty good. There's no artifacts, but if you can see on the edges here, and this is just for nitpicking, you can see the shape of the bezel within the spill profile. It doesn't bother me personally. I think it's kind of cool, but anybody who's collecting these lights might have an issue with that kind of profile. Certainly not the fault of the Malkoff devices. It's just the inherent design of the actual light itself. But nonetheless, we have a smooth hot spot in the center here, and it tapers off to a nice even spill beam. Pretty useful for indoors in my opinion, and it does reflect the colors pretty well on the mat here, as we can see. And it does have a nice hot spot for a little bit of a throw. So a good balance, in my opinion, for indoors, and a little bit of outdoors for a close to medium range. And that is the M951 beam test with the 2 CR123 batteries. Now what we're going to go ahead and do is drop in a lithium-ion battery in here and test out the readings again. So we'll be right back. Okay, we're back again, shooting an Aperture 7.1, 24 frames per second, ISO is 2500 with a white balance of 5000K on a Panasonic GH2 14 to 42 millimeter lens. Again, we have the Opal Lightmaster Pro, and this time we're using our lithium-ion battery, the 16650 Orbtronics battery. It's 2500 milliamps, and we're about the same height off the table here, and we're waiting for our light meter to adjust, and we're just getting about maybe roughly about 10,000 lux or so. And again, it could be my positioning of the light as well. We're about 2 feet off the table, so about 9,500 lux. And again, same temperature rating of 41 CCT or temperature rating, and CR rating is about 97.5, so right around the same ballpark for the emitter. So as we can see with the lithium-ion battery, we're getting about the same amount of lux output, just a little bit less than 2 CR123 batteries. A little bit less now. We're kind of stabilizing around the 8,500 range, 8,700 range. So about 1,000 to 1,500 lux difference at this height here. Here we have the M962 with the 16650 Orbtronics battery inside, the lithium-ion 3.7 volt battery. And we have the light at approximately the same height as the M951 as before, about 2 feet off the table. So relatively getting the same amount of lux here in the ballpark. And I'm trying to angle it as I had it before. So we're getting about 9,500 and about 8,000 or so. So 8,000 to 9,500 lux, and the temperature rating's holding steady at 41K, so we're right in the ballpark for the specifications on the LED, the luminous SST20, and the CRI is within the ballpark at being 97 CRI. And once again, this is not a laboratory test. This is just an approximation test for all the samples we've had so far. As we can see, the hotspot is very similar, if not the same, as the M951 with this type of head unit inside. It seems to me, in my opinion, a little bit more softer hotspot and a little bit more spread out, which is kind of nice. There's no artifacts, especially around the edge here. So anybody who's collecting this type of light and converter kit will be pretty happy with it. And overall, it brings out the quality pretty well. Once again, pretty good for indoors, in my opinion, and probably short to medium range outdoors. Okay, we're back shooting in an Aperture 3.5, 24 frames per second. ISO is 2500. Shooting at a white balance of 5000K and a Panasonic GH2 at 14 to 42 millimeter lens. Here we have the Malkoff M961NL. And we can see the beam profile here on the M962 Surefire light with the 16650 lithium-ion battery at 3.7 volts. Out there in the distance, we can see a log, which is about 25 feet away. And beyond it is a pile of wood about 35 feet away. And to our left here, we have a creek and some trees. I'm going to go ahead and turn on the incandescent bulb of the M951. And as we can see, the temperature is a little bit warmer. And it has a little bit more throw, but less of a floody fill. We can see the rocks over there at about 35 feet away. And we can see the pile of wood as well, and further in the backyard as well. If we compare both beams here, the Malkoff appears to be a little more floodier and wider and produces a lot more light inside the spill when compared to the incandescent bulb of the M951. And for reference, we kept the LED inside the M962 because we want an even head diameter. So it's a little bit more even rather than using an M962 head versus an M951 head. And we can see the color difference in temperature here, with the Malkoff being a little bit cooler and the incandescent being a little bit more warmer. So my final thoughts on this new upgrade adapter from Malkoff is that it's a fantastic unit to use for any old Surefire light, and I would definitely recommend it to anybody. I haven't had any real issues with it so far in terms of its lighting capabilities and its ruggedness. It appears to be a very, very highly tuned unit, well made, and I like to thank Gene and Kathy and Todd for sending this out to me for review. I had emailed them and I asked them, hey, can I do a review on your drop-in light? And they said, yeah, sure, we'll send out a unit, and here we are. I think the unit's very well made, and the instructions are pretty straightforward on their main website. And once again, it's also made in USA, so it is pretty high quality. Now, Gene Malkoff, he makes other lights on his website as well, which includes a plethora of handheld lights from CR123 battery type operated ones to AA ones to, I believe, 16650 lights. I might be interested in purchasing a few more of those lights for myself, as I am very big into lights and playing around with lights. Now this unit, the MDM4, works perfectly with the older M962 units, and like it says in the description, you can use any drop-in M61 or M61T unit to go inside of here and operate. You just have to be aware of the voltage tolerances on each head unit that drops into the adapter here. So if you have like a 3-cell unit like this and you're running at 9 volts and you get a head unit rated for 6 volts, not going to work out very well. But luckily the M61NL runs at about 3.4 volts to 9 volts, so I can run 3 cells in here, or I can run my 16650 lithium ion to kind of save on some money and using lithium batteries. I'd probably recommend, if you're going to be shooting, for serious and not too often, just to keep the lithium cells in it. If you're going to be shooting quite often and probably going to the range, probably best to use a lithium ion cell, as long as you don't plan on bumping or breaking the cell in a dangerous fashion, as lithium ion cells are very volatile, and when they open up and leak, and if they contact any liquid, it can explode pretty well. There's plenty of videos on YouTube that show that. But aside from that tangent, the Malkoff devices work very well, in my opinion, and they're pretty rugged, and they do a good job of showing, illuminating what's out there, in my opinion, for their price and their runtime, which is the important thing to me. And that's why I recommend it to anybody looking into getting a upgrade for the M962 series or the M951 M951 series. Just be aware between the two, you might need the adapter for the bigger sized M962, and the little one, the M951, 2-cell one, you probably don't need that. So I hope this helped you out, guys, for the testing of the Malkoff head devices. If you have any questions, let me know. And definitely check out Gene's website, Malkoff Devices. And it's got some pretty cool stuff on there. Very, very nice items. And once again, thanks for watching. I appreciate it.